I tell my clients all
Yes.
the time, don't be scared to share your story because there's someone out there. Because I think a lot of women think, my story is so ugly and I don't want to share it, because of these things that happened to me. But it doesn't have to be tied up in a big, pretty bow for it to be worthy to be heard. There are generations of women who need to hear your story, and they need to know that one, there's nothing wrong with them, two, that they're not alone, and three, that they too can heal.
Welcome to Create Your Own Economy with Bunmi Ajibade, the podcast that empowers corporate professionals ready to break free and transition into entrepreneurship with confidence and clarity, as well as business owners looking to grow and scale their businesses. If you're exhausted from building other people's dreams, leaving you little time or energy to focus on what truly matters to you, you are in the right place. Each week, we provide actionable strategies, expert interviews, and real-life success stories to help you turn your ideas into thriving business. Ready to take bold, clear steps toward life and business you deserve? Let's get started. Have you ever felt that you have something powerful to say, that there's a deposit of a powerful message inside of you that you are supposed to share with the whole world? But it's either you really don't know where and how to start, or you don't even know how to own the room while you are giving that message. Have you been hiding in the shadows of your own story, hoping and praying that one day you have an opportunity that somebody will hear your message? I want you to get ready to discover how you can stop shrinking and start shining on the stage, or whenever time is ready for you to bring your message. And my guest today, she moved from designing behind the scenes to boldly claiming the stage, from doubting her voice to becoming a confident speaker, and not only a speaker, but also a coach for other women who are ready, and that word is ready, who are ready to lead with purpose and with power. And I hope that is you today listening to us. I want to welcome you, Marissa. Meg, we call her Meg. So welcome to the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Bunmi. It is such a pleasure to be here, seeing you in this pretty purple. It is such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I think one of the things, and I know you in your coaching, you talk about colors for your the people you are coaching, how to show up. So one of the things that I was coached on earlier on as a trainer is how to show up, and the best colors that really work with your color, with your eye color, with the color of your hair. And I took that class.
Yeah.
And that was when I knew that there's some bright colors that are really good for me: orange, red, yellow, purple. So I didn't used to wear them before. So thank you so much. And also I welcome all our viewers, my tribe. Welcome again. Welcome back to Create Your Own Economy podcast, where we empower corporate professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs to take bold steps towards building their life and their business exactly they want it. So today, Meg, she will share firsthand information about what it takes to pivot to move from a good career to fully own your own business. Even if your business is not speaking, it might be something else, but she will share some of her story with us. And I will share her bio from early days in design to becoming a sought out after public speaking coach. Meg now helps business owners and emerging speakers communicate with clarity, confidence, and a commanding presence. She works with women who are struggling with finding the confidence to be heard and are ready to take the next step to not just speak, but be heard and show up as the power women they already are. And if you have ever felt unheard in your professional space, whatever you are doing right now on your job, if you have ever felt unheard, or you are ready to step into your power as a speaker or a leader, this episode will give you the permission ticket. Meg is giving you the permission ticket to be intentional, for you to take action, to refine your voice, and show up with purpose, not with perfection, but with purpose. And of course, with Meg be your coach right there beside you. Again, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And I want to see how you moved from designing and you pivoted into public speaking and then becoming a coach. So what prompted that shift for you? And how did you know it was time for you to make that move?
Yes, so it actually starts before I even got into design. So I left college. I was so immersed in the world of academia, as one gets to be whenever you go to college. I was so immersed in chemistry and academia that I really lost myself, and I got like burnout is a complete understatement. And I left and I was kind of figuring myself out because at that point I didn't know what I liked anymore. I didn't know what I enjoyed anymore because I lived, breathed, and I ate chemistry basically. So whenever I left, I told myself I need to get back to what it is I enjoy. I need to find that spark. I had this amazing spark that just all of a sudden had gone out. And one of the huge things I enjoyed growing up was always public speaking. And even in college, I took public speaking, and that was the one class I absolutely soared in. And going back to childhood, I was the shyest little thing you've ever seen before. I was a hot mess. I was so shy. But I loved public speaking. That was the only time I felt like I could truly be myself was on stage. So I got back to that whenever I left chemistry, whenever I left college. And I always knew I was going to start my own business. Even the pathway to chemistry, that ultimately had always led to owning my own business. So I knew even though I wasn't going the chemistry route anymore in my life, I knew I was going to be a business owner. It was just time to find that spark and figure out what was the new pathway to business ownership. So with that, I got back into public speaking. I was looking for avenues to get back into public speaking, and I knew that that was the way that I wanted to get back into, I knew that that was the way that was my pathway into becoming the businesswoman I'd always wanted to be. So I started out by design. So whenever I started designing things, I had started out with presentation design, but then I started adding more services to really expand my clientele. And the way that I knew it was time to pivot was because one day I looked up and I was just like, okay, I'm offering all these services. I was basically drowning in services, but I wasn't creating things that I wanted to create. I was creating presentations, but I was creating more of the other service, of the other products, the digital products, that more of those than the actual presentations. So I was like, this is not what I want to do. I was doing it really until I could get my business off the ground and move into the coaching. but I ultimately had to pivot because I was like, I need to scale back all of these services. I need to get back to what I started with. So early this year, I made the pivot I sat down, I made my plan and pivoted only to presentation design. I got rid of the rest of the services and just started presentation design until I got my certifications, until I built up my certifications. And then I finally moved into the coaching because that was in my pathway of, because it started out, it was, well, even now on my logo, it says presentation services. So whenever you see presentation services, that's all encompassing of the presentation design and the actual coaching services. So I knew I was going to move into coaching. It was just until I was ready. But the pivot itself, the biggest pivot was early this year whenever I stripped down all of those services I was offering and just focused on design. And then I finally moved into the coaching phase. And so that's how that pivot. So I guess it was a big pivot, then another tiny pivot to get into coaching. But that's definitely, as a business owner, I think pivot tends to be a word that people are scared of sometimes because, you think, I mean, it's synonymous with change, but you have to be,
Change at times might be just a little bit change, and it might be a big one. You
yes,
know, I think every one of us would get to a point where you are like, I'm done. I'm still, there's still something. I
yeah,
still need something. So is that little thing. And then if you look at the fact that you are coming from chemistry to this, is just like day and night. You
yes, it
know,
was.
I came from microbiology to this.
Oh, wow.
So it's like day and night.
Sure is.
It might be just a little bit shift, but again, we all get to a point, and when that time is ripe, one of the things I heard you say is that you took classes, you
Mhm.
took certification. I think that is important also in the journey of align ourselves to go through that change, to move. And there's something else. We said something before we started that the fear of public speaking, I think, is next to the fear of death,
Yes,
right? Or something.
sure.
Or is it the fear of burning or something? I've forgotten what it is. So many women really struggle finding their voice, especially in professional settings. I don't
Yeah.
know, some of your clients. So, what are some internal and external barriers that you personally have to overcome before you confidently made that shift, even from chemistry to where you are?
Well, one thing I will say, a huge external thing I had to overcome was people's opinions of you. Now, I'm not a person, I'm not easily shaken by what other people think of me, but just people finally verbalizing what they thought about you. And, a lot of people, you make this switch, and a lot of people start saying, well, we see you as this type of person and you can't just change. A lot of people, whenever do a pivot, even if it's a big professional one or even one in your personal life, you realize how people see you. And, a lot of people are like, well, we see you like this, this is really crazy that you're doing this. It's crazy that you're starting this kind of business. But I had to get over listening to that and it was really frustrating for me because I'm thinking, if you were to just listen to me, if people were to just listen, and just take a moment to get out of their own heads, they would learn so much, about you and about your business. But I had to get over the whole like being annoyed by that, being annoyed by people putting their expectations on me. And I didn't feel it as much until I made this shift in my life. I didn't realize the kind of expectations that were put on me by other people because I had these huge expectations that I put on myself that I didn't even know what other people even thought about me or or about my kind of my life until I had made this big pivot. So that was something to kind of get over, was just kind of people like externally people kind of voicing their opinions and like kind of that, I don't want to say backlash, but that pushback that was weird to me. And again, you can say all day long it doesn't affect you, and to a certain extent it didn't, but also it was very confusing to me, and it was just kind of one more thing I guess to get over. And then internally, one thing that was hard to kind of get over with making this transition into this business was the fact that, like we were talking about, I had come from chemistry and that was day and night, the whole thing. And, I had told myself, whether you're good at this or not, you have to be a chemist. So it was kind of scaling back that and then also really tapping into my creativity because growing up, I never really thought of myself as a creative person. So it's still, navigating that creativity and just seeing like, oh yeah, I can be creative. Maybe I was suppressing it or maybe I just hadn't really nurtured that the way I should have. But that's definitely a big internal block I had to get over as well.
Yeah, we all have this self-doubt. And one
Yes.
of stuff that I read about you talked about that you are imposing yourself. Do I
Oh,
really
imposter
belong
syndrome?
here? Yes,
Yes.
do I really belong here, or am I supposed to be a chemist? Because again, your parents, other people, this is the path your teachers thought
Yeah.
you were going to
Well, and where
be.
that came in for me though was because so I had wanted to be a doctor since I was 5 years old. And
Wow.
that lasted all the way up till I was like 21 or 22. So, I've been a very driven person my whole life. As soon as I was 5 years old, excuse me, as soon as I discovered this at 5 years old, I talked to my mom, like, how can I would have my mom buy me books, and I feel like I took very actionable steps, even all throughout my life. And then I got into my dream college. I said the goal at 14 years old, I wanted to get into this college. It's not a huge college, but it was very prestigious to me. So I got into my dream college and I did everything I said I was going to do and then it just broke overnight. I broke under the expectations. And then whenever I got out of that situation, then I realized that everyone also had these huge expectations on me as well. So, that's where it came in, your parents, in my case, it was my grandparents had the huge expectations, the community. And that's where that kind of came into play. Everyone's like, has Marissa gone off the rails? It's not. It's just Marissa was burnt out and Marissa just had to pivot. Marissa had to make a shift.
Yeah, it's like and you're all talking as if I'm not here. I'm here. I have an opinion, right?
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
have an opinion. I mean, our parents, they mean well. I have three sons. Our parents mean well, but when I was in college, that was months ago, my dad wanted me to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
Then I wanted to be a geologist. But eventually I settled for microbiology. But you know how you are young, but you know that you just did this, but there's something missing. Did you feel like that?
Yes, I did. So, I was especially, I'll just say, especially at 18 years old, obviously, I was so excited to go out. I went out of state. So, we found out before we started filming that we're both in Texas. But, so I was born in Texas, but I always knew I was going to leave Texas for college because, for me, college, to get that full experience, it's leaving home. So I went to college in Arkansas. And so,
Okay.
I was so excited about leaving and going to Arkansas. I had planned this for 4 years. I'd planned this since I was 14 years old to move to Arkansas. So I did that and I was so excited. And the actual experience of going to college, it was amazing, especially that first year. I got in before COVID started and then it started and then that was another thing that happened. But
Yeah.
I was excited, but also very early on, especially like during my first semester and then even into the second semester, like regardless of COVID or not, just the coursework itself, I started feeling like because obviously it starts ramping up, but I started feeling like little hints of the imposter syndrome. And then I went
Mhm.
back in fall of 2020 and things had really changed. And I felt one, unsupported, and two, even more like I was pretending because I was kind of trying to play catch up. And especially the way that because whenever I went to college, I was so ahead of my peers because I had taken so many college courses in high school. But then there were some gaps where I had skipped over so much to where I needed to go back to the basics. And so that part, especially, fall 2020, that piece of the story alone is really where the imposter syndrome really amps up. And I always describe it, as it feels, I've always been a high heel wearer. It feels like I'm trying to jam my feet into a pair of heels that just don't fit. It feels like my toes are going to just pop out. That's what I felt like. That's what I felt like for
That's a
2020.
great analogy. That's a great
Yes.
analogy.
I
Yes,
mean,
I love
that's
that.
That's what it felt like with chemistry. Because I mean, I started out actually biology too, and then I changed to chemistry because I'm not an animal person. I did not want to like learn about all of the animals, and chemistry was very the chemistry pre-health track is almost identical, other than some
I love
other
chemistry too.
classes that you have to take. So, but the whole time, because I'm not a math person either, so with the chemistry, it was hard. I had to go through the class, like the same classes over and over again until I got it, and then it's like in some classes I was ahead, some classes I was behind. So I just felt like the whole time, and also I was a big part of my department because I worked on a research team. As soon as I got there, I got a job in the lab, and then I had another job in another lab. So it was like I was doing so good in some parts, but then in the actual academic parts, I was drowning. And again, like I said, I was like trying to shove my foot in a shoe that was not working. Excuse me, that was not my size, because I and a lot of people, they'll tell you, don't give up, and it's so important to not give up. But for
Yes.
me, I just was not cut out for, I mean, I'm not a math person at all, and I love the science, I love the concepts, but it just really got to a point to where I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm just really
Yeah, figuring that thing out, knowing exactly why you exist.
yes,
Because once you get to the bottom of why you exist, what your purpose is,
yes,
you just feel like, I can breathe. I
yes.
can breathe,
And
at
that's a
that
big
point.
part of my college experience, because because in my opinion, the reason why I exist is to build other women up. I mean, that's been my personality for as long as I can remember, and I think that's another reason why I struggled so hard in chemistry, because it was so competitive, and like my peers there, I went to school with a lot of women who also studied chemistry and biology, but it was so, I don't want to say cutthroat, but the competition aspect of it was just, I couldn't handle it, because I'm like,
Really.
why can't we just like build each other up? Where there, especially me studying to go to school for medicine, being pre-health, I was like, there are spaces for all of us to get into medical school. There's no reason for us to have this sort of mindset like we can't be friends, or you're the enemy. So I think that's another reason why going to school for chemistry took such a toll on me. But other than that said, other than the actual chemistry department, it was amazing being at college, because I did
Yes.
meet this network of women that were amazing and that built me up, and that I in turn had the privilege of building up as well. So I think
Yes.
that's another reason why once I stepped away, I did realize, okay, I want to find how can I build other women up, because I know that at the end of the day, that is, what I'm called to do. Because even in the
Yes.
medical setting, I wanted to be an OBGYN. So, it's
So
that's
I mean, you could still have. I always tell people, all of us, we were created to render help or support somewhere.
yes,
Is identifying that place, and once you identify it, you just it just like you put on gloves and it just
yes,
fits.
yes,
It fits, and you sense it in your spirit, in your gut. You feel it. You are happy. You even when you are not paid yet, you can talk to women. You can mentor people. I mean, it's really amazing, amazing. So this um, misconception um, about public speaking, especially when you speak with these women and you are there to support them and really to help them build a business and to tell their story, give them a voice. So, how do you help them really rephrase that excuse that they are giving, because we all give different excuses. So,
yes.
how do you help them rephrase that excuse? What does that process look like for you?
So, I'm a big proponent of getting to the root of things. So, for me, especially as women, a lot of us, and as people in general, at some time or another, you experience imposter syndrome. But I feel like
Mhm.
we as women, we experience it even more so, just because of the cues that maybe our parents have fed us, and maybe the sort of cues and messages that we get, especially from society. We are told that we are each other's competition, and we are also told that our voices don't matter as much as men's stories. It's called history, but there's a place for her story, and your story needs to not only be told, but it needs to be amplified. And I tell my clients all
Yes.
the time, don't be scared to share your story because there's someone out there. Because I think a lot of people, a lot of women think, my story is so ugly and I don't want to share it, because of these things that happened to me. But it doesn't have to be tied up in a big, pretty bow for it to be worthy to be heard. There are generations of women who need to hear your story, and they need to know that, one, there's nothing wrong with them, two, that they're not alone, and three, that they too can heal. And
Yes.
another narrative, a very big proponent on rewriting, is that introversion equals shy, and also that you cannot publicly speak. Now, I am the biggest introvert you'll ever meet in your life. I don't do big crowds, and people drain me very quickly. Now, I love public speaking, and I've never been shy my whole, well, I was shy like as a small child. I was shy as a kid, but in my adult life, I've never been shy. I've never been a shy person as an adult. So I like to really bridge that gap between introverts and public speaking, and also even people who aren't introverted, but maybe they're extroverted, but they get shy, and they have those nerves. I like to really nip that in the bud. So I like to address that the introversion is not your weakness, and even if you're not someone who is introverted, but you just get shy and you have that glossophobia that we know is so powerful, and so it just takes a hold of people, like, because it's a big problem whenever people would rather jump out of a plane, or it's even higher than dying. That's a big deal. But I really like to get to the root of, why are you so nervous? Where does your glossophobia come from? And so whenever I talk to people, I always start with asking them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your confidence in your public speaking? And, how would you describe your relationship with public speaking? And I like to get to the bottom of when were you, along the way of your journey, like, when were you kind of made to believe that public speaking is something that you should be afraid of? So, it's all, and for everyone, I love the fact that everyone is so different, and
Yes.
everyone owns their voice so differently. And that's why I like to really explain to people that I am very introverted, because they have this picture of, you're introverted, you're so shy, you're so withdrawn. But I am very introverted, but I speak completely different than other introverts do, even other introverts who are very outgoing. We all speak completely different. And so I'm very big on owning your own tone, owning your own voice. I have a series called Own It with Mag, and that's where we do a lot of that work on my social media.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Being an introvert does not mean you are weak.
No.
Does not mean you cannot speak. No. I think we always think that some personalities, they are weak, or they cannot do something, or is bad. No, you can be an introvert and still be able to stand and speak. You might not be the one that will do cha-cha-cha kind of talking and all that, but you can be powerful in your message, even as an introvert. And an extrovert might have to dial down so it just depends on the story, or what people were made to believe.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
and I love the example of the of the extroverts dialing it down, because in my Own It with Mag, I made one about introversion being your secret weapon, about being your secret power, and I actually make the sort of analogy that as introverts, we own the room differently, obviously, and you know how to play to an audience, you know how to kind of dial yourself down, because as an introvert, you are mindful of not draining other people's energy, because you know how easy it is for your own energy to be drained. But I actually made the analogy I drew the comparison between extroverts and, like, whenever you meet a new dog for the first time, and it's kind of like, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. And it's that high energy. So I thought that was funny, because it is an important thing to kind of know, kind of like, as people say, read the room, like maybe you need to dial it down.
Read the room. I mean, that is, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or whatever personality you have, is very important to always read the room.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the source of your power, of how people will accept your message. So what are some strategies? I know you help women from speaking, not just speaking, but to being heard. That is important. So, what are some practical strategies you teach your clients to help them improve maybe their delivery, maybe their presence? Like the example I gave you, maybe the colors that will really bring them out. So, what are some strategies you
Yes,
can
well,
share?
and you bringing up the colors is actually a great segue into what I was about to say because I am a big proponent of dress to impress. So I always tell people, I don't care how nervous you are before you get out there, make sure you look right. Like, right? Because
Yes.
whenever you dress well, I mean, you're just ready to show up. And I apply this logic to, all areas of life. There have been times where I've had to do something important where, I was nervous, but as long as you know that you're showing up, you look good and you're showing up, as your most powerful self and, you're showing up your best, it's going to translate well, whether you realize it or not. You just kind of settle into the situation. So same thing, with owning the stage. You own the stage a lot better whenever you think that, you look amazing. You look like a million
Good.
bucks. So that's one practical way I always tell people. And I mean, it's just fun, right? To start looking your best, to just get in your best. But as far as actual kind of like techniques, I'm very big on grounding and breath work. So I teach my clients, like breathe in, like deep breathing exercises. And, I give them visuals like pretend like your lungs are balloons. You want to inflate them and then be very mindful about deflating them. And then as far as whenever we're kind of doing things, to improve your actual speaking, a lot of the time I do the old, like, you put pencil in your mouth, to kind of slow down and, work on your diction and your pronunciation of your words. And I have them clap out, like, especially I have a lot of people who they are so nervous. So they start rushing and, they're rushing around trying to just get it out so they can sit down. And so what I do is I have them just clap, like while they're talking, just clap it out. And that not only does it slow them down, like that's my technique to slow them down, but they're so focused on clapping that they forget that they were ever even. I I love that trick. It's like a double whammy. I love that one. It's
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, So, uh, most of the people that listen to my podcast, they are corporate professionals. It's
Yeah.
either they already have just one hustle or they are thinking of a business. And what if they were called to speak? I mean, if their calling is to speak or to teach, but they're afraid to take that first step, what advice would you give them?
What I would say, the best thing about speaking is that anyone can do it. It's not one of those things like where, you have to, oh gosh, I don't have any past expertise in speaking. Like, you can just, I mean, even just get your phone out, record videos, even if you need to practice that way or practice on someone, especially if you're trying to get into teaching and instructing. The best way to teach someone is, or excuse me, the best way to, really kind of get in there is teach someone who they don't have any idea of the material at all, and then have them, recite it back to you or tell you what they got out of it. So I think that's the best thing about speaking is that just about anybody can get into it. It's just, you can practice, just practice as much as you need to and you're just fine. But as far as, actually getting into it, especially as a busy professional, just write it down. I say that to everything. Just write it down. Excuse me. So whenever you write it down, it's in front of you and you can just see what's going on. So you can set goals and then the goals lead to micro habits and which can then actually in turn cause actionable steps towards whatever your goal is. So, say you are a corporate professional right now who wants to get into speaking, you gradually get into speaking, but maybe you want to do full-time speaking. You maybe want to take full-time stages or maybe become a sort of instructor full-time, whatever it is. You can make that plan to gradually ease your way into it. And it's not going to be daunting and it's not something, you take a little bit of time out, but ultimately setting up that schedule to just, and it doesn't even have to be even a huge commitment, but just writing it out and just making that sort of commitment and writing it into your day or your week or month or however often you check in on it, it makes a huge difference because holding yourself accountable, I think a lot of people get sideways because they think that they need other people to hold them accountable. But really holding yourself accountable, it's,
That's ownership.
yes, exactly.
Ownership. Difference between accountability and ownership.
Yes,
Yeah.
and taking ownership of, your goals and your dreams, that's when
Yes.
you really start to feel the burn, and that's whenever you really start to make those actionable steps. So, and that's why, that's a huge reason why I named my videos that I post on Friday. That's a huge reason why I named it Own It with Mag, because on Wednesdays I do sort of a motivational affirmation type video, but on Fridays, okay, we talked about what we were going to talk about during the week, but I want you to over the weekend think about this and own this because I want you to take those steps towards whatever your goals are or towards whatever your goals in general, or if you have specific public speaking goals, or even if you're just working on gathering up that motivation. I want you to own it. I can sit here and talk to you all day long, but I want you to actually dive in and
Yeah.
own it.
Yes. Yeah. You said something about practice. If you want to go into public speaking, whatever it is that you want to go into as a corporate professional, it's very important to find a place where you can practice.
Yes.
Look for places where you can practice, and also it might be maybe a school
Mm-hmm.
or a group of students at whatever my kids are grown, so at times I forget what are some things that they do again. So you might have a boys and girls club or something. Look for a place where you can volunteer, where you can practice, where you can speak. They don't know what it is that you are doing, but you have to take ownership of that thing that you want to do. And
Yes.
as you practice, you set your time, you set your goal, write it down, set your goals. That's what Meg said. She said, write it down, set your goals. And then those will become micro habits. You might find a group of women, they're having something. Can I just give like a 5 minute exhortation there? Oh, yeah, come on in. And you are owning your craft as you do that. So thank
Yes.
you so much. As we want to round up, one of the things you said at the beginning was that you had to take some classes. You
Yes.
had to take classes and really help yourself to learn more about the craft. And you're a coach. So, what would you say is the correlation between ongoing self development and business success? Ongoing or looking for a coach or looking for a mentor to help you along the way. How does that correlate to having a successful either transition into entrepreneurship or a successful business at that?
Oh, yes. I mean, the correlation is very strong, I would say, because, on the hand of the transition, you need support. That's definitely something I had to learn along with the way that support is so important because I am a fiercely independent person. I want to do everything by myself, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about things, or I used to not want to talk about things. I'm like, I just need to get it done. Like, let me stop talking about it and get it done. But the transition period is tough. I mean, it's tough for anyone. I mean, even that word transition, for me at least, sometimes it's a bit daunting because I hear that's synonymous with change as well, just like how pivot is. But you need to make sure that you have good support, and a good mentor or coach will definitely do that. Or even if you have people in your network that are around to help you, like in your professional network or even personal network, it makes the difference. And even as once you get over the transition and you're in your business, like you've just started your business, or maybe you've rerouted the business and it's where it needs to be, That network is still important, but also remembering that it's a whole perfect storm of a lot of other things. It's the perfect storm of having, if you have a coach or a mentor, like that's, that plays a part in, your strong professional network and also your personal network, having good friends around. And also taking care of yourself and making sure that you do the things that you love. That was how I got so burnt out in the first place. So that's why I put such a big emphasis on it, for myself. But even outside of the past burnout that I've experienced, I just have realized that as a business owner, it is so important for me to take care of literally every aspect of my life because it does bleed into the business. If you're too tired to work on the business, it really lacks, especially because for me, I think every business owner has a part of the business. Especially whenever you're a solopreneur, you have part of the business that it's like, oh, that's not really my favorite thing to do. And for me, it's social media. And so if I'm too tired to work on my social media, if I'm too tired to film videos, that affects my visibility and my engagement on
Mhm.
social media. If I'm too tired to, go in depth and, prepare for the sessions with my clients, they're not going to be quality. Maybe if I'm not in a good mood, maybe if I'm not taking care of my mental health, that's going to definitely affect, how my sessions go with my clients. Or even if I jump on a networking call and I'm like not well mentally or I'm upset, that's not going to go well either. You're not going to make some great connections. So I think it's important as a business owner to realize that every area of your life, you have to take care of yourself. That way you can show up as the businesswoman or the businessman that you are meant to be. So that's my biggest thing is just never stop improving never stop
Yes.
working on your life, on your personal life, but also never stop working on the business side. Like never stop improving and educating yourself whenever it comes to the business side because, with anything, it doesn't even have to be science or, medicine or anything that's, really hands-on like that. It could be like literally anything that you're doing professionally. There's always something new to learn. There's always new techniques. There is, especially for me with social media, with promoting my business on social media, I'm constantly learning every day. And it's so funny because whenever I tell people that, they're like, well, you're 25, you should know everything. I'm like, I don't. I'm kind of the most chronically offline 20 something you'll ever meet. So I'm always to learn, what's new, what's hot, what are the trends,
Uh-huh.
so, it's always being open to that. It's so easy to be in business or be in anything for so long and be like, oh, well, I know the ropes, I'm not open to like learning any new techniques. But a lot of the time, that's what you have to do just to survive is
Yes.
how to keep
Yes.
up and evolve.
Yes, that is what you have to do. I tell you, if you are thinking of becoming a public speaker, if you don't know where to start, it's okay.
Yes.
It is okay. Nobody is going to judge you for not coming from heaven with all the books in your head. No, nobody will judge you. That is why Meg is here. That is why she's a coach, and she will really help you navigate, navigate whatever it is. We all come with we are from different backgrounds. We have learned differently. We assimilate differently. But whoever you are, but once you are ready and you have that passion for public speaking, I want you to take time and reach out to my guest today. Oh my goodness, what a powerful and also a highly needed conversation. You are young. You are not waiting until you are 70 before you are thinking, what do I do? I really want to appreciate you for allowing yourself to go with your thoughts, to go with what you know is what you're supposed to do, and not seeing, oh my goodness, what do I do? Oh, something might go wrong. And not allowing other people to tell you who you are supposed to be.
Yeah.
to tell you what you are supposed to be passionate about. So thank you so much. So if you are listening to us and you have been holding back your voice, or you have been playing small in rooms where you are meant to shine, you just dull your shine. I hope this episode has given you that push to go ahead and claim your spot. Claim your spot. Claim that stage in your business, in your career, in your community. Even if it's not a business, you might want to be able to speak in your community or in government or in your career. You don't have to talk to Meg because you want to have a business speaking. You might want to improve the way you speak on your job, in your career. She is here to support you. I want you to remember that your message, that message, especially that you have inside of you, that message matters because you are sent to some people. Your voice is needed, and confidence that you need, you can practice. And as you practice, you become more confident in yourself and in your abilities also to own the room. So if Mag's story today resonates with you and you are really ready to stop shrinking, right? They have to be ready. You are ready to stop shrinking and you want to show up and take the next step. Please reach out to Mag. We are going to have all our informations there for you. Is there anything that you want to give them, or you had something that you might share with them if they reach out to you? Right? Go on.
Yes, so for all of the listeners of the podcast, I am offering $50 off of any of my public speaking packages and any of my presentation design packages as a special thank you of being on here, because it's been amazing. I've enjoyed our talk, but also a sort of extra push to get everyone who has listened to kind of extra push to get out of your comfort zone and to start speaking, and just kind of, I always just say, just get your message out there, and it's time. No time like the present. So it just kind of is out there, just kind of give you guys that extra little push.
All right. So let's keep this conversation going. On Facebook, 1-800-MAG, M-A-G. Look for her on Facebook. Let's keep this conversation going. Follow her, connect with her coaching services. She has something good for you. I also will look at some of your presentation packages because, I'm always looking for ways to make my presentation better. And also share this with somebody that you know needs to hear Meg and her story. And if you are ready to transition from your corporate job and you are looking for a way, just reach out to me and let's connect, because I'm always here to serve you. Until next time, let's just keep building, keep believing in ourselves, and most importantly, becoming who we are meant to be. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to Create Your Own Economy with Bunmi Ajibade. I hope this episode gave you the clarity and inspiration to take the next step in your entrepreneurial journey. If you're a corporate professional feeling stuck or unfulfilled, and you are thinking about starting your own business, but find yourself asking, how, what, where, who, or when, I invite you to download my special curated guide, Transition from Corporate Professional to Entrepreneur, the 10-step guide for success. This guide is designed to make your transition smoother and less stressful. Afterward, schedule a clarity call to map out your personalized success path. We invite you to write a review, like, and share this episode with anyone who needs this information. See you in the next episode.